Greetings, citizens of the world. Israel, for over a decade, your violation of international law, and your crimes against humanity, have not gone unnoticed. The truth about the current Zionist Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Israel, need to be exposed, so let's begin, shall we? Firstly, why don't we start with your real name, Benjamin Milakovsky? Why he may actually be Hebrew, he still felt the necessity to change his name. Why? A lot of his credibility would be lost when claiming that this is his land. In fact, a lot of his arguments are based on his name. A few clarifications are necessary. Before you call me anti-Semitic, let's ask the question, what is a Semite? A Semite is a member of any of various ancient and modern peoples originating in southwestern Asia, including the Akkadians, Canaanites, Phoenicians, Hebrews, and Arabs. Judaism and Zionism are not inseparable. There is many Jewish people that do not support Zionism. If you don't believe this, run a quick Google search for Jews against Zionism, and you will see countless results, and organizations specifically created to protest against Zionism. To clarify, we are not against Jews, we are against Zionism, so if you're going to call us a name, use anti-Zionist. That would be more truthful than anti-Semitic. Israel, the oppression you place upon Palestinian territory has angered not only the anonymous collective, but all of mankind. Why the US continues to put taxpayers' money in your pocket, and continues funding and arming your genocide, is beyond us. In fact, Israel gets the most foreign aid than any other country. Let's get down to the truth. Zionism is a Rothschild created and funded agenda, and from our opinion, these are its motives. 1. To get a foothold in the Middle East. 2. It gives them their own intelligence agency, Mossad, which just happens to show up in suspicious cases all over the globe. 3. Palestine has huge amounts of natural gas, one of the largest sources in the region, estimated over 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. 4. It is another schism that they use to divide and conquer the population of the earth. Let's take a look how many Zionists are in places of power, not just in America, but all over the world. And this is not but a taste of how much control they really have on the West.
Matrix movie, there's something called the Zion mainframe. Well, Zionism, Rothschild Zionism, is in so many ways a mainframe of this network, and it pervades all the way through. Obama's immediate handler is a guy called Rahm Emanuel. He has served in the Israeli army. He's the White House Chief of Staff. He does whatever he says. His father, Emanuel's father, was a terrorist in the Irgun terrorist group that bombed Israel into existence in 1948. This guy is the second handler in the White House. His name's David Axelrod, Rothschild Zionist. And he was the man who orchestrated the entire election campaigns of Obama against Hillary Clinton and then against John McCain. The main funder and orchestrator of the funding, in terms of individuals, of Obama was a guy called George Soros, Rothschild Zionist, who manipulates countries and uses his networks and funding to create coups in countries where they want to change the regime change. And he bets on currencies like he bet on the pound years ago, and makes a fortune out of the demise of the economy of other countries, because he has no empathy. Henry Kissinger, massive Rothschild Zionist, has served that dynasty's agenda for 40 years, if not 50 years. And he's now an advisor to Obama, even though he's officially a Republican. The American economy, the American economic team, is led by Timothy Geithner, Treasury Secretary, Rothschild Zionist, and Larry Summers, Rothschild Zionist. The entire Obama budget is run by the budget director, Peter Orszag, Rothschild Zionist. This man was advising the Russian treasury when the Russian governments were giving state assets away to Rothschild Zionist oligarchs, including Roman Abramovich, the owner of Chelsea Football Club, by the way. It's very easy to become a billionaire when a state says, have these assets worth $1 billion, billions of pounds, thank you very much. It's a piece of cake. You could buy a football club if you want. And this man's company was also advising the Icelandic central bank in the run-up to the Icelandic crash. The Federal Reserve in America, which controls the American economy in so many ways, it's a privately owned, not government-owned central bank, and it's privately owned by the Rothschilds, and the affiliates of the Rothschilds is Bernard Bernanke, Rothschild Zionist. He replaced Alan Greenspan, Rothschild Zionist, who was head of the Federal Reserve from Reagan Bush right up into the Boy Bush administration, and he systematically took away the checks and balances which allowed the mayhem of 2008 to unfold. We keep hearing about Goldman Sachs and all the mayhem that it's created, both in the crash of 2008 and the crash of the economy in Greece. Fundamentally involved Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a fiefdom of the Rothschilds, headed by Lord Blankfein, Rothschild Zionist. The World Bank, headed by a Rothschild Zionist. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, headed by a Rothschild Zionist. European Central Bank, headed by a Rothschild Zionist. A stream of so-called czars, as they call them in America, controlling different policies and areas, policy areas of the Obama administration, Rothschild Zionists, including Cass Sunstein, who has actually written a paper saying people who have conspiracy theories should either be banned from expressing them or taxed for expressing them. Taxed! Climate change policy in the Obama administration is controlled by Carol Browner, Rothschild Zionist, and Todd Steen, Rothschild Zionist. Major area of policy. The American administration is utterly awash with Rothschild Zionists.
We are not trying to anger you. There is a vast difference between the philosophy of Judaism and the philosophy of Zionism. Zionism's core belief is that the land of Israel was granted to them by God. This is a religious belief, and the application of a religious belief in politics is theocracy, and we do not support theocracy in any of its forms. You can't cloak this under the shroud of religion. There's nothing holy, good, justified or morally acceptable about what is going on right now. The definition of genocide is the deliberate killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular nation or ethnic group. What Israel is doing is genocide. They are taking this land and killing people because it said so in their Bible. We have no problem with the Jewish people. We have an issue with what the Israeli government is doing. Let's bring this back to July 7, 2014. Israel began a massive assault on the Gaza Strip. In the first week, Israel dropped over 400 tons of bombs, killing over 130 civilians, about half of them being women and children. Israel's official justification for these attacks, the murder of 3 Israeli teenagers, which Israel blames on Hamas. Israel still hasn't produced any evidence that the murders were Hamas, or even a Palestinian, and in fact the evidence that we do have indicates that the murders were Israeli. This is the Israeli teenagers' distress call to the police. You can hear the kidnappers telling the boys to put their head down in Hebrew. This tape was held under a gag order by the Israeli government. If this is just a political debate to you, then go look at the pictures. You have no right to defend what Israel is doing, if you don't have the courage to even glance at the consequences. And anyone who would justify these crimes after seeing the civilian casualties should be ashamed of themselves. The bombing of heavily populated areas is a war crime, and the US is funding it with your tax dollars. United as one, divided by zero. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.